Good morning. Good morning. Hello, sir. Hello, hello. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I didn't have like a usually I'm doing my lives later in the day. I will do another live later today, but uh I didn't think I had a video planned. There was something I meant to do for a video, but I've forgotten. Um 50, Rocky, Nikhil, Kazim, GV, Connor, IR, KF, David, Oliver, Sam, Nick, Jacob, Enzo, Nice, the Clown, Prince of Crime, Humble Columbus, Kalen, Owen, Shannon, Druv, Spencer, Joshua, Nick Royce, Lou, Samuel, Matthews. All right, good to see you all. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? You could tell that was an exhibition game. Yeah, I mean, it's not even a preseason. It's an advertising game. It's an advertising game. Amram out after that. Yeah, that's it, you know. Never mind the 15th. The 15-hour flight to Asia 2 days after the game has the season has ended. With 24 kids on the pitch through the course of the game. That's where I draw the line. Never mind losing to Tottenham in a final. Never mind the 15th place finish. Never mind any of that. This meaningless game is where I draw the line. That is what does it. I am now Amarim out. That's it. That was the moment for me. That was the moment for me. I can excuse the Tottenham loss. I can excuse the 15th place finish. But the meaningless loss in this pre-season game, post-season game in Malaysia, that is it. That is it. I am Amarim out. I'm done. Bring me Qatar. Sack Omar. Sack Wilcox. Sell Ahmad. No goals. Bring me Sheikh Jassim. I don't care if he's AI. AI good. Bring them to me. Doesn't matter, man. That's it. We lost a trophy. We lost a trophy. We lost the Asian All-Star Cup. And imagine if we had won. Imagine if we had won the glories we would have seen. It would have salvaged the season if we'd won that game, man. It would have salvaged the season. That would have been it. When it matters most. Yep. That's it, man. That was the moment. That was the end. uh King Ragnar, please don't tell me Mbeumo is off. If so, something about Mast Antuano. I'm desperate here, James. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I just want to go back to Pastor Fred days. The better days when I used to drink this mug and think, Pastor Fred will carry us on this day. He will change my life. No matter what happens, I will still have Fred. But no. But no. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on. Let's talk about the first thing that we wanted to speak about today, which is Brian Mbeumo. Okay. As I did share on Monday, the concern was that we were behind in the race for Brian Mbeumo. I wish it wasn't so, but it is. We are behind in the race for Brian Mbeumo. Why is it dark mode when I'm there and then light mode there? How do I just make it dark mode all the time? Um, Whatever. We are behind in the race for Brian Mbeumo. Any of the academy catch your eye? KF, honestly, not really. I thought Morehouse was okay. Um, but you know, what else? At least we gave we gave the Malaysian fan base an authentic Manchester United experience. Yeah, exactly. Um, no, they're having second thoughts. They're having second thoughts, Jesse. They're gonna go have a new meeting in Monaco. Kone, yeah, Kone, yes, 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 yes. Thank you. Sorry for I did miss that. Kone looks really good. It's probably because I don't 100% think of him as a youth level, but Kone was good. Kone shows he's. I think he's got to play first team football somewhere next season. He needs time um, to play real football. Um, He does. He does. Somewhere he does need to build up his frame a bit, but yeah. But yeah, he was good for 20 minutes. But that's it. That's it. Johnny Evans is still at the club until July 1st technically. Same as Eriksson and Lindelof, but for some reason, we're probably giving them time. We're probably giving them time to find a new club. Um, while Johnny Evans is probably going to retire. So I guess that's the difference, like a retirement tour for Johnny Evans, which is fine. He's been to Malaysia before. He's a long-standing member of United from the Fergie days. So yeah, but yeah, Brian Mbeumo. We like I said earlier, we really liked him. Um, we really want him, but we were not in the lead. And now you've seen the news. I don't know if you did see the news, but from Luke Edwards at the Telegraph that Newcastle are ready to make their move. Now they painted it as an exclusive, but if you've been following, um, then yeah, if you've been following, then you know that I've been talking about this all week. That unfortunately we were behind a Champions League club, which is Newcastle, in the race today for Brian Mbeumo, and they are ready to make a move for him. Now, I don't think that it is off the table fully. I don't think that we don't have a shot. He doesn't have to make this move immediately. He doesn't have the release clause in the contract. Um, there's other reasons that could play to our advantage on Mbeumo in convincing him, but we need the money. We need the money. We need to figure out our budget, and we are going to need to do some convincing in order to win, that race to bring him in. So, it's up in the air. No, Champions League definitely cost us because we would have the money right away to afford him, whereas now with money, kind of set for a striker, we're going to need to, potentially make some other moves, before we can get him done at this point. One sec. So yeah, choosing why Newcastle's project is pretty good, isn't it? I think so. Um, Newcastle's project is looking pretty strong at the moment. Yeah, so that's an issue. That's an issue. Bring a clear out only like the youngsters. Well, Dwayne, yeah, I mean, look, let's talk for a second about this because I think that, genuinely speaking, um, there is an attitude, and a perspective of, like, within the club right now, the environment, the thoughts, um, on, just the overall, like, the attitude, the perspective, and the environment of the players. You can tell us, regardless of this game, it's in general, it's pretty low. And to a degree, it's kind of why you may want to reset. It can be hard to change, the way that people are, the way people act, the way that people feel, the negativity that surrounds everything. Like, that's why I don't want to contribute to it, despite obviously all the jokes I made in the first 10 minutes. Um, um, I don't like the negativity that surrounds the club is really, really hard for a lot of these guys to build off of. It's really hard for these guys to play through. And sometimes you just have to reset it. I don't know anything about Kalamandu. You asked me yesterday, RSV, and I apologize. I don't know anything about him. I saw you messaged about Amin Guri. I think we looked at him a while back, and he looked really promising, but then his performances really kind of fell off. Breezy, we should go for CFs from the Belgian league, maybe. Um, but it is a very, very negative environment at the moment, and I do think that that hurts, and I do think that we've cleared a lot of staff, we've cleared a lot of people, we've cleared a lot of stuff, but we have to make sure we do the same thing, with the players, because it does make a difference to clear out the negativity in the dressing room and the people who are somewhat tainted. And I just start to wonder, like, when Ruben Amorim says that, they get used to losing. Well, that happens, and you start to accept, because people are naturally this way. You can't continue to be bothered by losing. Human beings, I'm going to channel my Phil here. Human beings cannot just lose and lose and lose and have negativity and negativity and negativity. Eventually, they will adjust their attitude, to be accepting of that negativity. And that's when it's dangerous, no matter how good they are. They will start to accept, the type of, that this is okay, because they can't continue to just be disappointed and upset 24/7 about everything. Um, they just can't. People can't handle it mentally, so they'll always, turn and cope and find ways. I mean, we do it all the time as fans, coping with being shit for a long period of time. Um, but for players, it's dangerous, and they do get tainted. To where they start to accept that losing is something that just is going to happen, and it affects their mentality. And sometimes you have to clean that out. And the question there: would you consider, Bruno to be tainted? To a degree, yes. Malik Tillman is a great alternative to Bruno, or to Mbeumo. Well, sure. I mean, look, I want to talk about who we're actually looking at. I have heard of quite a lot about Tillman, and he's an American, and I think he's really good, but I don't think that we're targeting him. But this happens in so many sports where, like, even when they're rebuilding, they often have to dump the players that were there while they were losing, because they can't come through. Promise David, a 6'5", 23-year-old Canadian. Oh, another Canadian named David. No, but fair enough. I'll have to look into him. Thanks for the suggestion. I know Tillman is in the Dutch league and he's an American. And I have seen a little bit about him. But yeah. But people can get tainted, and it's not even so much like accepting of winning or accepting of losing. It is at this, however, you can start to feel like it's inevitable, and the mental side of sports is just so big. It's just so big, man. Um, no, there's different ways to look at it. It's you can still care, but you can still have not even not because there's a difference about acceptance. It's not necessarily about it doesn't bother you or things like that too, but you can start to like mentally prepare yourself to lose before ahead of time. Like you can mentally prepare to lose games, and even good players that happens. Even good players that happens. But yeah, that is a concern to me, and I do think that there's a world where United might need to consider cutting bait just because it makes more sense to reset and reshuffle the deck. Um, and they need to do enough of it to change that. They need to do enough of it to change that. But yes, from an Mbeumo standpoint, we are behind. We are behind him on him. He will very likely right now. He's the favorite to go to Newcastle. As far as I understand it, it's not a situation where we cannot win. We cannot get back in the race. CJ, how was the game? Was it a family meal? It was poor. I mean, we played everybody in the squad, and it was just poor in general. Um, I do get the, it's like I even have had it suggested to me that United could still come back in on this from the players' perspective, that maybe United could come into the race on this again. And it's not done, but we really do need to move forward. Um, we really do need to move forward uh, with all of our plans. I very much disagree um, on the idea that Mbeumo is not the right fit. I'm going to show you. I'm going to make a suggestion, okay? Which is that I'm going to make a suggestion, and I'm going to post a link here really quick. Hold on one second. And I'm gonna post you a video about that with Mbeumo. That's just like a 3-minute set when he doesn't score in a game against Manchester City. And I want you to watch the performance when you get a chance, and you will see exactly what is wanted out of a number 10 in Ruben Amorim's system. I'm serious about it. Like, you watch that performance, exactly what he does. That's why they want him at the right 10 position. That is what a number 10 looks like under Ruben Amorim. Performance wise, forget the goals and assists for a minute. It is an insanely good, like, the skill set that he brings. We have nobody who does that. Where he receives the ball, the turns, the ways that you go under pressure, all of that. We need more players like that. We do not have players that can take the ball in the pockets, that can, and Cunha is the same. It's such a big deal. But yeah. They need to be that aggressive. Yeah, Amarim's right 10's like a half winger, correct. They're very dynamic. They're very attacking. But not they're not passive like a midfielder, but they don't, but they're yeah. Anyway, they're like they're like half wingers is the way to look at it. We obviously do have alternatives. I went through it in my thread the other day on who the alternatives are. This was confirmed by in fact, the exact names that I mentioned that are still being considered were confirmed by Wheeler's article the other day. The main names that we have, however, are certainly not as convincing. And what I mean by that is, like, they're not necessarily players who are ready at this moment in time. The primary alternative in that position that we have is Tyler Dibbling. We're still very interested in Tyler Dibbling. He's still a player that has, I do believe, very high potential and is potentially a really, really good player for that side. However, he's not nearly as ready now, right? That's just the truth of it. Dibbling's not going to come in and give us 15 goals next season. Dibbling's not going to come in and be that ready immediately, and if we go, he's a very, very good player though. He's a very good player, and I think he's underrated in that respect because you get people say he's not good or we shouldn't get him or something, but he is. Yes, I will go live later, probably at the normal time in about 3 hours from now. He's really good. He is a really, really solid player. If we're keeping Bruno, then Dibbling has time to develop as a backup right 10 or a backup right wing back behind Ahmad. But he does fit the profile very, very well, as does Mastantuono, in there. But they both are more development. But they're not going to score 15 goals like that. Ryan Cherky is nothing like Mbeumo. Watch that video from Mbeumo. Watch Dibbling play and watch Cherky. I think Cherky's a really good player, but very obviously he does not fit the same, like the ideal profile of number 10 that we're talking about. Really, look at them play, and it's blatantly obvious that Ryan Cherky does not fit it. A lot of the complaints that people have with this team is that we're very, very slow. We play slow. We play at a low pace. That's not how Ruben Amorim plays football. And that's the part that is really frustrating because I've watched Sporting for years. For years I watched Sporting, and the things when you watch United and people go, Amorim this, Amorim that, it's slow, it's boring, it's all of that. It's almost the exact opposite of the concerns that people had watching Ruben Amorim at Sporting and how his team plays. People were concerned we were going to end up being too fast, too transition heavy, and not play on the break, not play with enough possession. Their teams play fast. His teams play fast. They play quick, but they have to be really physical, really intense, and really able to attack with quickness in transition. And the reason is we don't have players who can do it. We don't have players who can even run with the ball. You watch what, like the link I posted if you want on Mbeumo. We don't have anybody who can do that. The things he did in that game. You watch anything, if you've watched Cunha this season, you will never see. We don't have anybody who can do that. The big difference is this, right? We have players who can receive the ball on the break. You send them into the channel like Garnacho, and they run and they run and they run. Who doesn't? What we don't have are the guys who can drop into the midfield, pick the ball up, turn and run and go fast and break down teams in that way. We do not have anybody who does that. Ahmad to a degree, but he's better out wide. And that's really what they're looking at. I hate that we don't have people who run with the ball. Correct. We do not have people who run with the ball. That is definitely an issue. Elite passing center backs are essential in the system. That is totally true as well. Which is why Lissandro going down was such a big loss as well. Why Yoro coming through perfectly at the right time. So Tyler Dibbling is an option. Another option that I'm still not. It feels unlikely because of the price, but I do understand. Yeah, the way we played against Villa was a lot closer, but it was, and obviously we had a no problem breaking down a deep block against Aston Villa. We should have scored 5 goals in that game. The other player that is definitely of interest is Antoine Semenyo. I still don't think this will happen because he's so expensive. He's just so expensive. But there's a reason they like him, and it's because he is super dynamic in his dribble and his carrying and his in the physicality through the middle thirds, right? The way that he is somebody who's very good at dropping in, picking up the ball, turning under pressure, carrying, driving up the pitch, but his end product is lacking. His end product is lacking. I would think he's a good player for the wingback position, but 70 million is a lot of money. You know, like if you put him out on wingback, he would probably, the end product is a little less important there. You use his dynamism to get up the pitch, get into attacking areas, do overlaps and cutbacks and things. But he is not so great in the final third. He is a bit wasteful. He is a bit wasteful. That's the unfortunate part of it. And he's also 70 million pounds. So there's a more proven player, but he's going to be very expensive. He's going to be very, very expensive. Okay. That's part of the problem. Dibbling will probably be, I mean, the earlier thing they were saying was 80 million. I think we still think it's going to be closer to 50, but you know, it is a challenge finding the right players here that are going to fit. I hear people saying Kudus. I don't think we're interested in Kudus. And, you know, Kudus is good, but he's also a bit lacking in end product, in my opinion. And can be a bit reckless at time, but he's obviously a top dribbler. He's intense and, you know, all of that. But I think he'll also be insanely expensive. 80 million is a lot of money. Semenyo is like a better Garnacho. Yeah. He is like a better Garnacho. But it's so expensive. Jean Sims, Xavi Simons and Cherki can do the job and have. I hear you on that, but I don't think they can. I don't think they can. Like, I think Cherki's a really good player. But I do think he lacks the intensity to play the way that we want to play. I do think he lacks the intensity to play the way that we want to play. I do. You know, Anthony, no. It's a difficult thing here. I mean, look, we're talking about, when you look at it, you're talking about potentially the best. I mean, who's a comparable player to Mbeumo? Who's the most comparable? Yeah, the weird Greenwood Lovin is not for me either. No, I know, Ryan. But yeah, I mean, like I said when Emram came in, I really wish it worked out with Marcus Rashford. Because that is actually a player who can take the ball, turn, get it up the pitch, and actually has some end product in his game. But not gonna happen. The amount of good player can't play an Amram specific system profile is concerning. Yes, he needs specific. I mean, isn't that what we've wanted though? I hear your concern, but like Pep's been the same. You know? It was just suggested. It just said at the bottom. It just suggested similar players, and it said Marcus Rashford. So I clicked on it to see what it would look like. But Morgan Rogers, sure. Look, it's the same with any system manager. You think like Xabi Alonso will need specific players for the way he wants to play, though they already have an insane talent pool there. Arne Slot wants specific players and has dumped them. Jurgen Klopp recruited a very specific way. Yeah, top managers do want specific players with specific traits who play. And the thing about it at the same time as that, though, the thing about it, though, that you need to bear in mind here is that a lot of those managers, when they bring players in, they're not always superstars. And then they elevate them. And so people go, oh, that's like a mediocre signing. Like, let's not all lie. Again, I always use Liverpool as the example because who in their squad, who? I want you to name one person in their squad besides Virgil van Dijk and Alisson that everybody knew was a top player when they signed him. I want you to be honest right now and tell me who in that Liverpool squad everybody knew was a top player when they signed him. Besides Virgil van Dijk and Alisson, who were two of the best players in their position at the time. Even then, Van Dijk was at Southampton. And you won't have a ton of answers. You will not have a ton of answers because what they did was bring in specific profiles for specific roles, for specific players, and those players elevated within the system by being brought up. McAllister's probably the closest. Do not say Gravenberch because he was flopping at Bayern at the time. McAllister was probably the closest, but it's not. Thiago didn't even work out. Fabinho, yeah, no. It's so funny seeing the revisionism on that. Fabinho was not rated as the best defensive midfielder in the world in Europe at the time. He was not rated at the level people are talking about at the time. I'm telling you, he was good, but he was absolutely not rated like people pretend he was at the time by everybody. He was not viewed as like the best option in the world for the number 6. He was not even on anybody's list in that conversation. I promise you that. Luis Diaz was not, A lot of them were very, very Szoboszlai. Fabinho was a good player, but he was not as highly rated as people will make up like he was the best player in the world. But he was a good player, and he was rated highly. But he also elevated to a much higher level at Liverpool as well. But look, it's very, very few. And I'm talking about their current squad, by the way. The team that just won the title. I'm talking about the team that just won the title. I'm talking about their current squad. Yeah, I remember that on Fabinho. I'm missing out. We missed out over agent fees. Yeah, people thought Bakayoko was better than Fabinho. I remember. People always revise these types of things. I remember how players were rated. Fabinho was a good talent, but people preferred a lot that were better. He got benched as well in this beginning, yeah. Wijnaldum was certainly not, and he got elevated. Like I've said before about Henderson and Milner and all of these types of guys. I'm saying the team that just won the title at Liverpool, they were not, how many of them are already, when they signed them, was it known, oh yeah, they're the top prospect, like we're looking at right now. Where we're saying, well, after Mbeumo, it looks bad because Mbeumo is literally the best right 10 in the league. Like you bear in mind something here. Like he's the best right 10 in the league, behind Mo Salah, obviously. But for this type of team, no, I'm not going to argue with the same three people who are trying to convert the argument into something that isn't. Nunez was a top prospect and he flopped, right? In fact, their best signings that they made flopped. Whereas a lot of the players that people would have said aren't the best signings have turned in to absolutely fantastic players like Szoboszlai, like Gravenberch, like Robertson, like Trent, like Matip, like Luis Diaz, like all of these players, right? They elevated so many players because they bought the right players for their profiles that fit the system that they were building, and that allowed them to elevate those players. They all elevated. No, you're just making dumb comments, Alfred, as usual. You're asking who's Amram elevated, and I'm telling you, we need to buy the right players for his system to elevate them. Listen with your ears. Listen with your ears at the conversation that is being had. We're talking about how Liverpool had to recruit players for a system so that they could be elevated. by getting the right fits. And you're saying, why haven't we elevated fucking, like, please, on God, listen. It's so painful sometimes, these conversations. It's so painful. Oh, my God. Klopp did elevate the initial team he had, to be fair. Did he? What was the position that they finished in? What was the position that he finished in? Let's see. Let's see who he played in his first system, in his first team. Let's see. To be fair, not 15th. Don't really care about that. 8th, right, yeah. Super great, 8th. In a very, very different league as well. Jurgen Klopp inherited Ricky Lambert as number 9. Have you seen our number 9? Have you seen our number 9? His name is Rasmus Højlund, and I would take Ricky Lambert over him. Have you seen our number 9? He replaced his entire squad. Literally. He sold his best player in Coutinho. They literally replaced the entire team. He replaced his entire team to win anything. But absolutely, I'd be taking Ricky Lambert over Rasmus Højlund. Like, give me a break, man. And Amarim has improved plenty of players. Not plenty, I would actually say. A few. The problem is that there's just not good players. Lenny Yoro improved dramatically under Ruben Amorim, and you'll make an excuse and say, well, he was just young, it was natural. Okay. Well, you can make any excuse you want. Lenny Yoro improved dramatically under Ruben Amorim. Bruno Fernandes improved under Ruben Amorim. Amad Diallo improved under Ruben Amorim. Joshua Zirkzee improved under Ruben Amorim. It's not a ton because we don't have that many good players. Maguire improved under Ruben Amorim. You know, but there's not that many players that are worth improving. You know? Unfortunately, because they don't fit in the system, so they're not going to be elevated. They're playing against their strengths. So they're not going to improve. That is the point of having a system manager, is you find out who fits and who doesn't. That's what happens. You find out who fits and who doesn't. The point being, it's better to buy players. A case could be made for Dalot too. I actually agree with you. We are still terrible because we have very, very few players who fit into the way we want to play. Virtually none. And the ones who don't are so bad. And even the ones who do, the quality is not particularly there. But genuinely speaking, overall, it's not even debatable. A lot of individuals improved, but it's also over a very short period of time to make that judgment. It's easy when you look, 2 years later on a manager's career and say, yeah, now those players had improved. Look at how Klopp improved X, Y, or Z, but that's after years. That's after years you get to look back and say that, not within the same season. But regardless, we need better players to fit. And there's really good players that we can get, like Mbeumo. There's really good players that we can bring in. But if the alternatives are not as good, it doesn't mean it won't work out. Like I say, with the examples of Luis Diaz, of Gravenberch, of Jaboslai, of Mo Salah, who was an alternative to Julian Brandt at the time. You know what I mean? Of the players that get brought in by many of these teams, so long as they fit, then you put the pieces together, and a lot of times that they elevate. A lot of times they get better and better when you have players playing within a system instead of playing, in a system that doesn't fit. And that's what matters. And that's what matters. You still have to get players who fit the system to do it, and they don't all have to be superstars in order to improve. Arsenal's another good example of this. Of all the players that they brought in, as much as I dislike it, as much as they haven't won anything, when you look at that Arsenal team, they bought a lot of young players who were not all top players. Fit them in together, matched up a system, and they all improved. They all grew as players. You took players who were just okay, who were decent, who were good, and they got a lot better by playing within a system that elevated them. And that's really what has to be done. But that took a little while too, because Arsenal looked really bad in the beginning, and they also had to turn over nearly the whole squad to get there. Shout out to Kone and Lacey. Yeah, indeed. It was good to see them, Jonathan. I completely agree. So even though all our 10 gifts to the community, thank you, Jonathan. It means a lot. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you. Asa, Devin, Stinker and Hooked, Logan, Ultra Rare, John, AI, JJ, Vin, really appreciate that. Batman and Kalon to get the gifts from Jonathan. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate you always being here, Jonathan, and doing that and everywhere that I am and everywhere that we are across the United community. You're an awesome dude. Really appreciate that. Yeah. So give the money to the club to help with transfers. So, I think that I would like us to get our best players, but it's why, even though I'm very dramatic about Liam Delap, because I do have concerns, if he's functional, he will help us. If he's functional, we will probably get better, with him than what we had, right? If he's just so long as he's functional, it will get better with him. And even though I would much prefer, some better players, just bought the club a box of Jaffa cakes. Even though I'd much prefer better players, right? Players that I think are better. And it's the same. It goes for Mbeumo. Even though we want him and he's a top player and would be the best, if we do miss him and we get alternatives, then we will, as long as they fit the system, we will see improvement. And that's what we should see. We should see improvement from them. We should see them grow within the team. The team should grow and they should grow with it, because it is fit over function. When you fit the players together, everything works better. Everything functions better. That is absolutely the case. So we have alternatives. The main ones being, Tyler Dibling, Mastantuono, Semenyo as alternative players to Bryan Mbeumo. But we still have a chance. It's not like it's completely off the table, but they're certainly going to be moving. Newcastle intend to move fairly quick to try to get this deal done and make something happen. We do need money, though. We do need money in order to do this as well. Marcus Rashford in talks with Barcelona over a move that is good. That's where he needs to be. I saw a mention of a loan plus option. I don't think that's going to be on the table for us because we do need a sale. However, it's not necessarily as bad as it's being made out, the potential for a loan plus option, because we're going to have to pay off Rashford's wages very likely. If his full wages are covered this season, we get a loan fee this season. By the time the option kicks in, we may not need to pay the wages. We may not need to pay any wages off at that time because it's another year of wages paid, maybe a different structure at that point in time, and could end up making us more money between this season and next. There is potential. There is potential. I would definitely say ideally we want to see it as an obligation, because then we can count it sooner, they can count it later, and it may work for everybody. People coming in from United View and such here. Thanks. Good to see you guys. Thank you very much, and welcome, Mr. United, to the Pro Muppet as well. But yeah, so there's potential there. There is potential there. That could do something for us, getting that going. Even if it's a loan. But regardless, going to Barcelona, them showing their interest, Diaz looking like he's potentially off the table, is a good sign for us. We're obviously going to push for a sale, and for something permanent on that perspective, rather than just just a loan. I don't think a loan with just an option really works for us at all. I don't think so. I just read. Sorry. Yeah, they have to complete a couple of things, but it's good to see the talks. It's good to see the interest. It's good to see that moving. 40 million, I think, is a very, very fair fee. Obligation or a full sale, yeah, would be good. We can make enough money immediately otherwise. Emmer Moncunia, you have to wait for that. It won't confirm anything. I have no news. We will see. There will be some changes. Fair. I mean, I don't know why managers even get asked about that. You know what I'm saying? Like, they never say anything. They never say anything. Any news yet on Sancho? No. So the situation with Sancho is they're going to play in their conference final today, and then we will see what happens. But they're going to have a summit, end of season summit, to decide, who they, what they want to do, if they want to purchase him, and all of that. So that is not we don't know. We still don't know on that. So we do have alternatives to Mbeumo, in the form of, again, Dibbling, Semenyo, Mastantuono. That's who we're going for. That's who we're going for. But look, the other factor is that we are limited before July 1st. That's part of the issue. Like we have to set up our deals July 1st. We've got to set up a lot of deals we have to set up for July 1st so that we can count them into next season from a PSR perspective, because it may go the same way with sales. Now, we can still agree some fees and get things settled ahead of time. But yeah, we really do need to have our budget secure. There's the potential with this Club World Cup where some of our sales can actually get done in early June, and we can get it on the books. But yeah, Simix don't have much bargaining power at Barca. No, he won't sign. He won't want to go anywhere else, and we won't want to pay his wages. We might be forced to accept a loan with option. Yeah, I mean, it is a possibility, but we're gonna have to have some really good terms on that work for us for it to be possible. We're gonna have to have some really good terms, no doubt about that. That is for sure. But we really do need to get something like an obligation or a major fee, a major option, a major fee, and maybe a conditional option or something. But yeah, Garnacho is a bigger one. we need to sell. We do have options to sell him. He preferred the move to Chelsea in January when it was kind of showing on the table. I do believe they'll be back in for him. There are probably other options that will come to the forefront for us in England. I mean, I know all the talk's been about Napoli, but there are going to be other clubs that come in for him as well in England. So we'll see there. He did prefer the Chelsea option in January, but we need money. I mean, look, we need money. Ruben Amorim says, anything positive? I liked the kids. They tried. That's enough for me. They want to play more, but you have to rotate to get everybody involved. They did well. Yeah, fair. So, but yeah, it's crazy. So we're kind of in this situation, unfortunately, that we've continued to be in this almost holding pattern of, we're waiting on Delap. We have money kind of tied up in the striker where we've agreed to a fee, we've agreed to pay, we've agreed to wages, and that's where our budget is right now. Until we hear back, that's where our budget is right now. That's where it's going. We need sales. We need that resolved. If we miss out on Delap, though, I will tell you this. Obviously, we still interested in Gyökeres, but we're hoping that we hear something back soon at some point. But if we miss out on Delap now, I think there's a decent chance we make a strong push for Mbeumo, like immediately. Immediately. That we make a strong push for Brian Mbeumo and see if we can get something done. And then figure the striker thing out later. Because he's a better player than Liam Delap, and I think would be more impactful to us. So that's what I suspect we will do if we're not hearing out soon, if we're not hearing back soon on this. But we should, man. It's getting a bit ridiculous that this is continuing to go on. We need to sell, but supposedly Liam Delap, it would be within the next 24 to 48 hours, but we keep hearing that. Now, at the same time, Bruno has about another 36 hours to respond to the Al Hilal offer as well. So, look, we're not going to miss on Mbeumo in 1 to 2 days, okay? It wouldn't be that dramatic. I don't think it's that dramatic. It doesn't need to be made that dramatic. We have time. We have a couple of days to sort this out. And that's what we're waiting for. There's a few, plates spinning. Like we say, there's Bruno, there's Delap, and then we can kind of pull the trigger on our other plans, and hopefully we hear something a little more later today. Another name, obviously, that's been mentioned a few times that is interesting is of course Eze, because Eze is a good player too. Eze is a good player. I do have my doubts on certain aspects of his game, but he's also a good player. The issue is I also think he'd be a bit expensive. I think Eze is probably good in the final third for us. Would be a big improvement, but I'm not sure he offers as much as other players. You know what I mean? In that position, I get mixed. I get a Eze. I get mixed. I don't know. I get mixed messages when I watch him. He'll be 50, 60 million. Yeah, and that's fine. Eze, okay. But he plays a bit more on the left, yes. He's not left-footed, which is a bit of an issue. I don't know. I don't really like it either. I don't think that it adds much to us because you could play him on the right, but he's not great on the right. So I don't think I tend to feel very mixed whenever I watch him play. So I don't think that it's the same thing. I'm sure they have other options. If we miss out on Mbeumo, though, I would probably rather us just go the young potential route with Dibbling or Mastantuono. Esse? Is he Mexican? Is Esse? Eza? But like he's a good option, but he doesn't solve the problems that we have necessarily. That being said, if you were having Bruno in the 10 with Mbeumo, then Eze would make kind of a good Eze would make kind of a good backup 10 for both sides. So yeah. Complicated. It's complicated, man. But yeah, the main news at the moment is that Brian Mbeumo is closer towards Newcastle, and we have to figure that out. We still really do like him, though. We made contact. We're interested. So there's a chance here, and there's a few scenarios we can make it happen. Heard we'd be interested in Semedo for right wing back on a free. Interesting. I would take Semedo as another right wing back option on a free, but I'm not sure it solves our problems in that respect. Sane and Semedo on freeze, say it very quietly. I would take both of them, to be fair. I would absolutely take both of them, to be fair. Um, I know that a lot of people wouldn't, but I would. But I would. I really would. All right. I'm gonna be live in a few hours. Again, a bit later today, so I'm not gonna make this one much longer. We've talked enough about it. But that's the main thing this morning on Mbeumo. So we're still in this like slight holding pattern, and hopefully we'll find out some more about where we're going from here soon on our plans. Um, I'm gonna get coffee, get some work done because it's super early. I've been up since so early now, and I'll be back later. I'll see if I have any more news to share for a later stream, later video. So don't worry, I will be back later. I will be back later, and we will have more to talk about. I'm sure by then. There's always more to talk about with Manchester United. So I'll be back later. Hopefully with good news to come. Okay. See you later, and yep, I'll see you in like 4 hours or something like that. I'll be back. Have a good one, everybody. Where's my button?